Channel 2S is brought to you by New Type HQ. Get your kits and supplies at the link in the description below. So it really looks like 2021 is turning out to be a lot like 2020 when it comes to the way we're getting our Gunpla announcements. Just like how last November we got a huge info dump that had pretty much every kit we got for the entirety of 2021 inside of it, we have once again in 2021 had a sort of massive November event that has shown off a lot of the kits we're going to be seeing in 2022. Now, it's not quite as much as we saw back in 2020, but it's a similar idea. One of the things that kind of annoyed me about 2021 when it came to Gunpla releases was we pretty much only got around one new kit a month. There was the month where we get the Real Grade High Nu, there was the month where we get the Master Grade Eclipse, and it kind of made it a little bit underwhelming if you weren't interested in that one specific model. And unfortunately, it does seem like that pattern is going to be carrying on into the foreseeable future. Fortunately though, the low quantity of kits we've seen so far for 2022 has no bearing whatsoever on their quality because everything we've seen so far looks pretty freaking amazing. And if we're going to talk about amazing, we can't not talk about the entry grade Nu Gundam. Look at this kit. I'm a little bit outspoken here. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I just do not like the more hyper-detailed renditions of the Nu Gundam. Both the Real Grade and the Master Grade Nu Gundam Verka just don't do it for me at all, and I love that simple, clean, anime-style look that the High Grade Universal Century kit has. Unfortunately though, the High Grade does have some minor issues. The articulation is not the best, and there are a few areas of missing color. However, I'm someone who can personally look past that. But thanks to the entry grade, I will no longer have to put up with any of the shortcomings of the high grade Nu Gundam because this kit fixes pretty much every single one of them. When it comes to color separation, the entry grade Nu Gundam is just about perfect. All the little yellow details in the vents, on the hips, on the legs, on the arms, it's all captured perfectly. I never had an issue with the color accuracy of the high grade Nu Gundam because it was sitting at a pretty respectable, I would say maybe 80 to 85% accuracy, but the entry grade Nu Gundam, this thing bumps it up to a 95 or a 98. And just like with the entry grade RX-78, this kit gets a huge amount of work done just through clever engineering and molded colored plastic. There are almost no stickers on this kit. So far as I can see, the only ones on the entire model are the Amuro symbols on his shoulder and on his shield. And then of course we come to everyone's favorite selling point when it comes to Gunpla, articulation. Now this was the weakest point for the high grade Nu Gundam. It was a little bit on the older side, and so he had single jointed elbows, ball jointed hips, and no thigh swivels. And while it is true that the entry grade Nu Gundam still has single jointed elbows and ball jointed hips, these joints have a much wider range of motion than before. In addition, the entry grade adds a thigh swivel and what appears to be quite a lot of torso articulation. However, there is one big issue with the entry grade Nu Gundam that you've probably noticed by now, and that is the very, very conspicuous absence of a certain element of the Nu Gundam that is absolutely essential, and that is the fin funnels. For some reason, Bandai thinks that the fin funnels for Nu Gundams are an optional piece of hardware. Whether it's the $1,000 metal structure figure or a $10 entry grade model, Bandai just doesn't seem to think the fin funnels are all that important. Well, let me tell you right now, they are. They are very important, and that's why Bandai made sure that this model is compatible with the fin funnels from the high-grade Universal Century Nu Gundam. In addition, you can also take the bazooka and beam saber effects from that model and use them with this one. Now on one hand, it's pretty cool that they made them cross-compatible. On the other though, this creates a bit of a problem. Up until now, this kit was looking like a fantastic substitute for a high-grade Nu Gundam. It looked great, it posed great, it's cheap, it's available. Everything was going in its favor until now, because if you have to buy an entire high-grade Nu Gundam just to get the funnels for this kit, well, now you gotta ask yourself if you would be happy with just the Nu Gundam high grade on its own. Because with this model, all you're really getting is some slightly better color separation and a couple extra degrees of movement out of some of the joints. If you're someone like me that already has a high grade Nu Gundam, this kit is a pretty obvious upgrade, but if you're thinking about getting one of these and you don't already have the high grade, I would almost recommend that you get the high grade first, build it, see how you like it, and if you really want that extra little bit of articulation and you really gotta have that little extra bit of detail, then go ahead and spend the extra $10 on the entry grade kit. Now with the first entry grade Gundam release in the line, they did eventually make an expanded version of it that included the Gundam Hammer, the Javelin, the Bazooka, etc. So it is possible that there will be an expanded version of the entry grade Nu Gundam that includes the fin funnels. However, it's extremely unlikely that they will be fully functional and of the same level of quality as the ones you get with the high grade. I would love to see a version of the entry grade Nu Gundam that includes a set of full functionality fin funnels right out of the box, but I just can't see Bandai doing that right now. However, I would love to be proven wrong. And as an aside, something kind of neat they did for this event was they gave us interactive 360-degree turnarounds of the CAD models for the newly announced kits. So if you want to see a more in-detail look at the entry grade Nu Gundam or any other models revealed at this event, you can go ahead and follow the link in the description below to take you to the event website. The most fun grade to speculate about when it comes to upcoming kits is Real Grade, because Bandai is always one-upping themselves when it comes to this line. For the last few years, pretty much every single new Real Grade release we've gotten was absolutely fantastic, and the God Gundam looks to be no exception. As the God Gundam is a melee and martial arts based suit, Bandai's biggest focus with this kit was clearly the articulation, and boy does it show. We live in an era now where it's pretty common to see insane levels of mobility on even the most normal high-grade kits, but Bandai somehow managed to one-up themselves with the God Gundam. The articulation on this kit is absolutely insane. The head's got a crazy range of movement. His hips are able to not only swing outwards but also swing inwards, allowing you to get some of the God Gundam's signature poses. Just having a couple extra degrees of inward movement makes it a lot easier to pull off poses like this one. And on the topic of this pose, getting a kit to cross its arms like this can be very difficult if you don't have this. That's right, Bandai was so intent on giving this kit the most articulation possible and the ability to get into every single pose you could possibly want it to, that they even give you the ability to extend the arms just a little bit in order to get them to reach around his chest for a proper cross-armed pose. This is a kind of pose that some kits can do okay, but I don't think anything can pull it off quite as well as this God Gundam. The lower body articulation of the God Gundam is insane as well, with hips that allow it to kick quite literally straight up into the air, and it can even do a full Barbatos style split with the feet sitting flat on the ground. It was impressive enough when the Barbatos was able to do this, but remember, the Barbatos's foot is very specifically designed so that it can rotate this far. There's basically no sides to his feet, and he has next to no armor around his ankles to give it that extra bit of mobility. But with the God Gundam, they had to take a much more normal style Gundam foot and get that same level of mobility out of it. And as you can see, they actually managed to pull it off. Now, the Real Grade God Gundam is not the only detailed, high-quality God Gundam model we've seen in recent years, as we did just get the high-resolution model a couple of years ago. However, this kit does have one thing up on the God Gundam high-res model, and no, I'm not just talking about the articulation. Both this Real Grade kit and the high-res model include an effect part for the God Gundam's hyper mode. However, the Real Grade takes it several steps further and gives us not just a flat little piece of acrylic to stick onto the back of the kit, but 3 distinct separate rings. This gives the finished effect part an extra 3-dimensional layer of depth that you just can't get with the high-res. However, it's not all sunshine and roses, because while almost everything about this kit looks absolutely amazing, there is one thing that does kind of annoy me a little bit. And with how perfect everything else about this model is, it makes this one nitpick all the more frustrating. Look at these hands. I don't think I have to tell you what these hands are for. You already know what these hands are supposed to be for. They're for doing this. They're Godfinger hands. That's what these hands clearly are supposed to be. And yet, as you'll notice in this image, the pose that they're sculpted in is not even close to the pose that he uses in the anime. Instead of his fingers being in sort of a Vulcan salute kind of pose, he's just got a standard splayed out hand sculpt. And I would not be criticizing this nearly as much if it wasn't for the fact that they got almost everything else right about this kit except for this one little detail. And this one little detail is used in the single most iconic attack and the single most iconic pose the God Gundam has. This is literally how so many people are going to want to display their God Gundam kits, and yet he doesn't technically have the correct hand to do the pose. Anyways, the final retail price for this kit is going to be 3,800 yen, and while I do feel like they could have maybe fit this kit in under 3,000 yen, I would much rather they give us the best possible kit at whatever price point it needs to be at, than try to undercut the quality of the model to hit a certain MSRP. I've criticized the Full Mechanics Calamity Gundam in the past for having an overinflated price tag, and unfortunately the Raider Gundam is following in its footsteps. Just like the Full Mechanics Calamity, the Raider Gundam is a 5,500 yen model that looks like it should have been 3,500 to 3,800 yen. Much like the Calamity Gundam though, if you put aside the price tag and just look at the model for what it is a pretty great looking kit. I myself am not a big fan of the Raider Gundam. It's my least favorite out of the trio, and I think that same opinion goes for a lot of people. I can't say for sure, but I feel like most people prefer either the Calamity or the Forbidden Gundam over the Raider. So, Bandai releasing it between the two of them does kind of make sense. Start things off with the Calamity to get people hyped, throw out the Raider Gundam in the middle to keep their attention, and bring the hype back up at the end with a full Mechanics Forbidden Gundam. And yes, at this point, it is basically all but confirmed, because there is no way Bandai is just doing these two and not releasing the Forbidden. And finally, unbelievably, we have another installment in the high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans line. And I gotta say, I am really impressed in IBO that we are still getting new IBO releases, and I mean brand new IBO releases, not variants, not like weapons, equipment versions of different suits and color swaps and stuff of things we've already gotten. I'm talking legit brand new kits, fully new Gundams, 5 years after the show came out. 5 years, guys. It's been 5 years since IBO, and we're still getting occasional new kits from the line. That is insane. It really goes to show just how popular IBO was, and I mean, if it keeps going at this pace, maybe we'll see more of the anime someday. I don't know. I just think it's really cool we're still getting these kits. Now, we don't know exactly what it looks like yet. They're just showing us a silhouette, although there have been like some sketches and concept art of it that I've seen floating around. But it's still just really cool to see Bandai giving this much attention to Iron-Blooded Orphans. And remember, with every single one of these Gundam releases, we come one step closer to getting a full set of 72 Gundam frames. Will that happen? I mean, hey, if you asked me back when IBO was airing, I would have said probably not, but it's been 5 years and we're still getting these kits. Maybe we'll get all 72, I don't know. It becomes more possible every single time we get one of these random out of nowhere annual IBO releases or whatever. Sure, give us all 72, make it happen, Bandai. And just as a nice little bonus for those of you that stuck around to the end of the video, here's the box art for the Master Grade Virtue. As I expected, this is one of those triple wide Master Grade boxes, the super wide boys, the ones you see for your Fazes, your Psycho Zakus, those kind of kits. And it really does make sense for the Virtue because this is basically a kit and a half. Like many things in life, this is a bit of a double-edged sword because while on one hand we do get this awesome box art mural on the front, on the other hand, this is also going to be quite a bit more expensive to ship to your location if you don't live within walking distance of your hobby shop. If you're someone who has to import all their kits from Japan, I do not envy you right now. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there on some of these kits because I think they're cool. I'm a little bit disappointed that we're not getting more in 2022 and we didn't get more in 2021, but what we are getting on those rare little moments where we do get something is pretty freaking cool. I'm Second Soundwave. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Shout out to the 2 whole people that subscribed to this channel in the last month, and I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.